Ladies and gentlemen, life is full of choices. Every day we're faced with decisions, some small, some life-changing. And if we're not careful, we can get stuck, overthinking, worrying, and afraid to move forward. But I want to encourage you today, you are not alone. You have everything you need to make the right decision. Too often we wait for absolute certainty before we move. We think, what if I make the wrong choice? But let me remind you, God wouldn't bring you this far just to leave you confused. You have an inner knowing, a sense deep inside that's guiding you. Trust that. Maybe you're facing a decision right now, whether to start a new job, step into a relationship, move to a new city. You've prayed, you've thought about it, but you're still unsure. Here's the key. Don't let fear make your decision for you. Fear will always try to talk you out of what's best. It will tell you you're not ready. What if it doesn't work out? But you can't let fear be louder than faith. Instead, look for peace. If you feel pressured, anxious, overwhelmed, that's a sign to wait. But when you feel a deep sense of peace, even if it doesn't make sense on paper, that's a sign you're on the right track. And even if you make a wrong turn, don't worry. God knows how to reroute you, just like a GPS. He will take your mistakes and turn them into something good. Your destiny is too big to be ruined by one wrong choice. So today, be bold, be confident. You have wisdom, you have faith, and you have a bright future ahead. Make the decision and trust that everything will fall into place. There is something powerful about that inner voice inside of you. It's not just a passing thought, not just a random feeling. That knowing deep down is there for a reason. Too often we look outside for answers. We ask others what they think. We analyze every detail. We weigh all the pros and cons. But sometimes the best thing you can do is quiet all the noise and listen to what's already in your heart. That instinct, that deep sense of direction is not there by accident. It's been placed inside of you as a guide. It's that feeling when you meet someone new and something inside says, be careful. Or when an opportunity comes, and even though it looks good on the outside, something just doesn't feel right. You can't explain it. You don't have all the facts, but deep down you know. The problem is we don't always trust that feeling. We let logic talk us out of it. Well, this job looks great on paper. Everyone says this is the right move. I don't want to disappoint anyone. But here's the truth. Your instinct knows things your mind doesn't. It sees things ahead that you can't see right now. It's picking up on things that aren't obvious. And if you ignore it, you may find yourself in situations you were never meant to be in. Some of the biggest mistakes people make come from ignoring that inner voice. They get into a relationship even though something felt off from the beginning. They take a job that looks perfect, but deep down they had hesitation. They move forward with a decision even though they had a small check in their spirit. Then later on, when things don't work out, they say, I knew I shouldn't have done this. That was the instinct speaking all along. You don't have to explain why you feel something. You don't have to have all the facts to justify your decision. If you feel unrest, if you feel hesitation, that's enough. That's your instinct telling you, wait, be careful, something isn't right. On the other hand, when something is right for you, you'll feel a deep peace, a knowing that says, this is it. Now, that doesn't mean every decision will be easy. Sometimes trusting your instinct will require you to step out in faith. It may not make sense to the people around you. Others may not understand why you're saying no to a good opportunity, why you're walking away from something that looks great. But you're not called to live your life based on popular opinion. You're called to follow that inner leading. The more you listen to it, the stronger it gets. The more you obey that prompting, the clearer it becomes. But if you keep pushing it aside, if you keep ignoring it, over time it gets quieter. That's why some people say, I don't feel anything. I don't have direction. It's not that they don't have an instinct. It's that they've ignored it for so long that it's hard to hear. But the good news is, it's still there. And you can get back to that place of clarity. It starts by making small decisions based on that inner knowing. When you feel a nudge to reach out to someone, do it. When you sense that you need to wait on a decision, don't rush. When something doesn't feel right, don't override it. Maybe you're facing a decision right now and you've been going back and forth, analyzing, asking everyone what they think. That's fine. But at some point you have to stop and listen. What is your instinct telling you? What do you feel deep down? Not what fear is saying, not what pressure is pushing you toward, but what is that still small voice inside speaking? Trust it. It's not there by accident. It's leading you toward the best path for your life. It's protecting you from unnecessary pain. It's guiding you toward what is meant for you, even if you don't understand it, even if others don't agree, even if it doesn't make sense. If you follow it, you'll find yourself in the right place at the right time. There have been times in my own life when I had to make a big decision and everything on the outside looked perfect. People were saying, this is the right move, this is a great opportunity, but something inside just didn't sit right. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt uneasy. I had to make a choice, ignore that feeling and move forward, or trust my instinct and walk away. It wasn't easy, but I chose to listen to that inner voice. And looking back now, I see how that decision protected me. If I had moved forward, I would have walked into something that wasn't meant for me. It would have taken me down the wrong path. But because I listened, I stayed on the right track. You don't have to understand everything in the moment. You don't have to have all the answers. But you do have to trust that what you're feeling is real. That instinct is your protection. It's your wisdom. It's leading you. Today, I want to challenge you, start listening to that voice again. Stop second guessing yourself. Stop waiting for absolute certainty before you move. The truth is, you may never have all the details, but you have something even better. You have an inner knowing that will never lead you wrong. It's time to start trusting yourself again. It's time to stop looking outside for every answer and start tuning in to what's already inside. When you trust your instincts, you will make the right decision. You will walk into the right opportunities. You will avoid the wrong people and situations. You will find yourself in places you never could have gotten to on your own. So today, make the decision to listen. Follow that peace, trust what you feel, and watch how everything begins to fall into place. There are moments in life when we stand at a crossroads, uncertain of which way to go. The choices before us can seem overwhelming. Career decisions, relationships, financial moves, or even everyday challenges that require wisdom beyond what we have. In these moments, when logic doesn't provide a clear answer and emotions pull us in different directions, the most powerful thing we can do is pause, step back, and seek guidance from a higher source. Too often, people rely solely on their own understanding. They analyze every detail, weigh all the pros and cons, and try to predict every possible outcome. While there is wisdom in thinking things through, there comes a point where human reasoning is not enough. There are things we simply cannot see, hidden factors, future events, or unseen dangers that could affect our decisions. This is why it is so important to turn to something greater than ourselves. Seeking divine guidance is not about getting a dramatic sign or waiting for an audible voice from the heavens. It's about quieting the noise, stilling the distractions, and opening our hearts to receive the direction that is already being given. Many times, we are so busy, so caught up in what we think we should do, that we don't take time to listen. But the answers we need are often found in those quiet moments of reflection where we let go of our own striving and allow wisdom to rise within us. When we take the time to seek guidance, we are acknowledging that we don't have to do everything on our own. It's a way of saying, I don't have all the answers, but I trust that I will be led to the right path. That trust is powerful. It shifts our mindset from fear to faith, from anxiety to confidence. It reminds us that we are not alone in our journey. Sometimes the answer doesn't come immediately. We want instant clarity, but instead we feel like we are in a waiting season. This can be frustrating, but it is often in these waiting times that we grow the most. Delays are not denials. Just because you don't see an answer right away doesn't mean one isn't coming. It may be that the timing isn't right yet. It may be that there are things being worked out behind the scenes, things that need to align before the door opens. This is why patience is so important. If we rush ahead just because we feel pressured to make a decision, we may end up walking into something we were never meant to be in. But when we take a step back, breathe, and trust that the right path will become clear, we give ourselves the best chance to make a wise choice. There are moments when the guidance we receive is not what we expected. We may have been set on one direction, convinced that it was the right way, only to feel a deep hesitation inside. This hesitation is not something to ignore. It is a signal telling us to pause and reconsider. On the other hand, sometimes the direction we feel led toward doesn't make sense on paper. It may seem like the harder route, the less logical choice, but something inside keeps drawing us toward it. That is when we have to trust that we are being led towards something greater than we can see. Looking back, many people realize that the moments when they felt lost were actually the times when they were being guided the most. The closed doors, the unexpected turns, the delays, all of it was shaping them, protecting them, and leading them to something better. What felt like a setback was actually a setup for something greater. One of the biggest challenges in seeking guidance is letting go of our own expectations. We often come with our own ideas of how things should go, what the answer should be, and how quickly it should come. But part of seeking wisdom is surrendering our need for control. It's about saying, I may not understand everything right now, but I trust that the right path will be made clear in time. When we live with this kind of trust, we don't have to carry the weight of every decision on our shoulders. We don't have to be paralyzed by fear of making the wrong choice. We can move forward with confidence, knowing that we are being led in the right direction. Even if we take a wrong turn, we can trust that we will be redirected. Even if we don't have all the answers, we can know that clarity will come when we need it. Some of the most successful people in life are not the ones who have it all figured out, but the ones who have learned to seek wisdom beyond themselves. They don't rush into decisions based on pressure or emotion. They take time to reflect, to listen, to wait for that sense of peace before moving forward. They understand that the best choices are not always the easiest or most obvious, but the ones that come from a place of deep knowing. No matter what decision you are facing today, you don't have to figure it out alone. The wisdom you need is already available to you. The direction you are looking for will come when you take the time to seek it. You are not forgotten, not overlooked, and not left to struggle on your own. The right path will become clear in time. Until then, trust that you are being led step by step toward the best future for your life. Don't let fear control you. Fear is one of the greatest obstacles to making decisions. It has a way of creeping into our minds, whispering all the reasons why we shouldn't move forward, why we aren't capable, why things won't work out. It magnifies every possible negative outcome, making the unknown seem terrifying. But if we allow fear to take control, we will stay stuck, unable to step into the opportunities that are meant for us. Many people miss out on great things, not because they lack ability, not because they don't have the right opportunities, but because they let fear talk them out of it. They feel a pull towards something new, a business idea, a career move, a relationship. But instead of stepping out in faith, they shrink back. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? What if people don't support me? And so they remain in the same place, letting fear make their decisions for them. The problem with fear is that it doesn't just stop at one area of life. If you let it control you in one decision, it will try to take over in others. Before long, you find yourself playing it safe, never taking risks, never stretching beyond what is comfortable. Life becomes predictable, routine, and unfulfilling. You may have dreams, but they remain locked inside because fear convinces you that you're not ready, that it's too risky, that you don't have what it takes. But the truth is, fear is a liar. It exaggerates, distorts reality, and keeps you from stepping into what you are meant to do. Most of the things we fear never even happen. We waste so much energy worrying about worst-case scenarios only to realize later that things worked out better than we expected. Fear makes the challenge seem bigger than it really is. It tricks us into believing that failure is the end, when in reality, failure is just part of the process of learning and growing. Think about a time when you were afraid to do something, but you did it anyway. Maybe it was speaking in front of a crowd, making a big move, or stepping into a new role. At first, fear tried to hold you back. But once you took that step, you realized it wasn't as bad as you imagined. The fear leading up to it was far worse than the reality of doing it. That's how fear operates. It tries to keep you from experiencing the good things waiting on the other side of action. Some people spend years waiting to feel completely fearless before they take action. They think that once they no longer feel afraid, then they will be ready to move forward. But the truth is, fear doesn't just disappear on its own. You have to decide that you're going to move forward despite it. Confidence doesn't come before action, it comes after. When you step out, even when you feel afraid, you build strength. You prove to yourself that you are capable, that you can handle challenges, that you don't have to let fear run your life. One of the biggest reasons fear holds people back is because they focus too much on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. They imagine every worst-case scenario, every possible failure, every rejection. But what if instead they started asking, what if it works out? What if this is the best decision I've ever made? What if this opportunity leads to something greater than I ever imagined? When you shift your focus from fear to possibility, you start to see things differently. You begin to realize that the risk of staying the same is greater than the risk of stepping out. Fear also has a way of making us believe that we have to have everything figured out before we move forward. We want certainty, guarantees, and a clear picture of how everything will turn out. But life doesn't work that way. If you wait until you have every detail in place, you will never take action. At some point, you have to take a step of faith, even when you don't have all the answers. You have to trust that clarity will come as you move forward. Some of the most successful people in the world didn't have it all figured out when they started. They didn't have perfect conditions or absolute certainty, but they didn't let fear hold them back. They took risks, faced challenges, and learned along the way. They understood that fear is normal, but it doesn't have to be in control. Maybe you have a decision in front of you right now, and fear is trying to convince you to stay where you are. You feel a pull towards something new, something greater, but fear is making you hesitate. This is the moment to push past it. This is the time to remind yourself that fear is not in charge of your destiny. It may try to intimidate you, but it cannot stop you unless you let it. The only way to overcome fear is to face it. The more you avoid it, the stronger it becomes. But when you confront it, when you take action despite it, fear begins to lose its power. You realize that you are stronger than you thought, that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. Think about the people who have achieved great things in life. Do you think they never felt afraid? Of course they did. The difference is they didn't let fear make their decisions for them. They felt the fear and moved forward anyway. They understood that growth requires stepping into the unknown, taking risks, and trusting that they would figure things out along the way. Fear will always try to show up when you're about to do something new, something important. It will try to convince you to stay where it's safe, where it's comfortable. But deep down, you know you were made for more. You know you are meant to grow, to evolve, to step into new levels. Don't let fear rob you of that. You may not feel ready. You may have doubts, but the only way to know what's possible is to take that first step. When you move forward despite fear, you break through barriers that once held you back. You discover strength you didn't know you had. You start to see yourself differently, not as someone controlled by fear, but as someone who rises above it. So today, make the decision that fear will not control your life. You may feel it, but you won't be ruled by it. You won't let it keep you stuck. You won't let it stop you from stepping into the opportunities that are waiting for you. The best things in life are on the other side of fear. Don't let it hold you back any longer. Take the step, move forward. Trust that what's ahead is greater than anything fear is trying to keep you from. Life is full of decisions, both big and small, that shape the direction we take. Every day, we are faced with choices that can impact our future, our relationships, our career, and even our sense of purpose. Some decisions are easy, but others require deep thought, careful consideration, and wisdom beyond our own understanding. In these moments, one of the most important things we can do is seek the right voices, the people who have the wisdom, experience, and perspective to help guide us in the right direction. Who we listen to has a profound effect on the choices we make. The people we surround ourselves with influence our thinking, our mindset, and even the way we see ourselves. When we are making a decision, we naturally look for input from others. We ask for advice, we share our thoughts, and we seek reassurance that we're making the right move. But the key is making sure that the voices we are listening to are coming from the right people. Not everyone has the wisdom to guide us in the best direction. Some people speak from a place of fear, negativity, or personal limitations. They may mean well, but their perspective is shaped by their own experiences. And sometimes those experiences can be filled with doubts, regrets, or missed opportunities. If we're not careful, we can take advice from someone who is projecting their own fears onto us. Instead of encouraging us to step out in faith, they may tell us to play it safe, to avoid risk, to stick with what's comfortable. But just because something didn't work out for them doesn't mean it won't work out for us. That's why it's so important to be intentional about the people we allow to speak into our lives. Wise counsel doesn't come from just anyone. It comes from those who have walked the path ahead of us, who have made good decisions, who have wisdom that comes from experience. It comes from those who have our best interest at heart, who are willing to tell us the truth even when it's not what we want to hear. There are times when we already know what we need to do, but we seek advice from the wrong people, because we're looking for confirmation of what we want to hear. If we want to take an easy path, we can always find someone who will tell us what we want to believe. But true wisdom doesn't always align with our personal preferences. Sometimes the best advice challenges us. It pushes us beyond our comfort zone. It forces us to consider things we may not have seen on our own. Think about the people in your life right now. When you share your thoughts, do they encourage you to think deeper? Do they challenge you to make choices that align with your long-term goals? Or do they speak from a place of limitation, doubt, and uncertainty? Surrounding yourself with the right voices doesn't mean surrounding yourself with people who always agree with you. It means surrounding yourself with people who genuinely want to see you grow, who will challenge you to become the best version of yourself. Sometimes the best wisdom comes from those who have been where we are trying to go. A mentor, a coach, or a trusted friend who has navigated similar decisions can provide insights that we may never have considered. They can help us avoid pitfalls, recognize opportunities, and approach decisions with greater clarity. Learning from the experiences of others can save us years of trial and error. But seeking wise counsel is not just about asking for advice. It's also about being willing to listen. Too often, people ask for input, but have already made up their minds about what they're going to do. They hear the advice, but they dismiss it if it doesn't align with what they want to do. True wisdom is not just found in seeking advice. It's found in being open to hearing things that may challenge us. It's about being humble enough to recognize that we don't always have all the answers. There may be times when wise counsel goes against what we initially thought was best. It may point us in a direction we didn't consider. It may advise us to wait when we want to rush, or to move forward when we feel hesitant. In these moments, it's important to reflect on where the advice is coming from. Is it coming from someone with experience? Someone who genuinely cares about our well-being? Someone who has made good decisions in their own life? If the answer is yes, then it's worth considering, even if it's not the answer we expected. One of the greatest mistakes people make is isolating themselves when they have an important decision to make. They convince themselves that they don't need input, that they can figure it out on their own. But even the most successful people in the world don't make decisions in isolation. They have advisors, mentors, and trusted people they rely on for guidance. They understand that no one has all the answers, and that wisdom is found in listening to those who have different perspectives. There will also be times when we have to be selective about whose advice we take. Not everyone who gives us advice has our best interest at heart. Some people speak out of jealousy, insecurity, or personal bias. Others may have good intentions, but they simply don't have the wisdom to give sound advice. That's why it's important to ask ourselves, does this person have the experience to speak into this situation? Have they made good choices in their own life? Do they truly want what's best for me? If the answer is no, then their advice may not be worth following. Seeking wise counsel doesn't mean we let others make decisions for us. At the end of the day, we are responsible for the choices we make. But having the right voices in our lives helps us make more informed, well thought out decisions. It helps us see beyond our own perspective and gain insight that we may not have had on our own. If you're facing an important decision right now, take a moment to evaluate who you are listening to. Are you surrounding yourself with people who challenge you, encourage you, and offer wisdom that comes from experience? Or are you listening to voices that are holding you back, keeping you stuck in fear or uncertainty? The people you seek advice from can either help you move forward or keep you from reaching your full potential. Life is too short to make decisions based on fear, doubt, or the wrong influences. Surround yourself with people who will push you to grow, who will speak truth into your life, and who will help you make choices that lead to the best future possible. When you seek wise counsel, you gain the clarity, perspective, and confidence to make decisions that will set you up for success. Every day we are faced with decisions, some small, some life-changing. In the midst of these choices, there is often a sense of urgency, an external or internal pressure pushing us to decide quickly. Whether it's pressure from deadlines, expectations from others, or even our own fear of missing out, the temptation to rush into a decision can be overwhelming. But the best decisions are not made under pressure. They are made from a place of peace. When we feel pressured, our thinking becomes clouded. We may act out of fear rather than wisdom, reacting to the situation instead of responding with clarity. Pressure makes us feel like we have no other option, that we must decide right now or we will lose an opportunity. But more often than not, pressure leads to regret. When we look back, we realize that if we had taken just a little more time, if we had stepped back and sought peace, we would have chosen differently. One of the biggest sources of pressure comes from the expectations of others. People may have their own opinions about what we should do, where we should go, or how we should handle a situation. Sometimes these expectations come from family, friends, or colleagues who mean well, but don't fully understand our situation. They may push us in a direction they believe is best, not realizing that their perspective is limited. If we allow ourselves to be swayed by the opinions of others, we can end up making choices that don't align with who we truly are. There is also internal pressure, the voice inside our heads that tells us we have to decide now, that we can't afford to wait. This often comes from fear of failure, fear of missing an opportunity, fear of disappointing others. But decisions made out of fear rarely lead to the best outcomes. Fear causes us to settle for less than what is best, to choose the easier path rather than the right one. When we operate from a place of peace, we make decisions that align with our values, our purpose, and the bigger picture of our lives. Peace is not the absence of difficulty, it is the presence of clarity. It doesn't mean that every decision will be easy, but it does mean that we don't have to be driven by anxiety or panic. When we feel pressure to make a decision, the best thing we can do is take a step back, breathe, and allow ourselves to gain perspective. Many times we realize that the pressure was only an illusion, that we actually had more time, more options, and more control than we initially thought. One of the ways we can recognize if we are making a decision from peace or pressure is by how we feel inside. When we are being pushed into something that isn't right for us, we often feel uneasy. There is a sense of heaviness, a lack of joy, a nagging feeling that something is off. On the other hand, when we are moving in the right direction, even if the path is challenging, there is an underlying peace. It doesn't mean we won't feel nervous or uncertain, that there is a sense of rightness, a deep knowing that we are making the right choice. There are times when stepping away from a decision, even just for a short period, can make all the difference. When we remove ourselves from the immediate pressure, we give our minds the space to think clearly. Sometimes a good night's sleep, a walk outside, or a moment of reflection is enough to bring the clarity we need. We may wake up the next morning with a fresh perspective, realizing that what seemed urgent yesterday is not as critical today. It's important to recognize that just because an opportunity is presented to us doesn't mean we have to take it. Not every open door is the right one. Just because someone else believes we should do something doesn't mean it's what's best for us. If we make choices based on pressure rather than peace, we may find ourselves in situations that are difficult to undo. That's why taking the time to reflect, to listen to our inner guidance, and to move forward with confidence is so important. Sometimes peace comes from simply knowing that we are not alone in our decision making. When we take the time to seek wisdom, to reflect, and to trust that the right path will be made clear, we remove the burden of having to figure everything out on our own. We don't have to have all the answers immediately. We don't have to solve everything in one moment. There is a process, and clarity often comes step by step. When we make decisions with peace, we make choices that we can stand by long term. We don't have to second guess ourselves, wonder if we made the wrong move, or live with regret. Even if things don't go exactly as planned, we can rest in the fact that we made the best choice with the wisdom we had at the time. When we operate from pressure, however, we are more likely to look back and wish we had done things differently. No matter what kind of decision you are facing today, give yourself permission to slow down. Don't let external pressures, fear, or urgency force you into something that doesn't feel right. Trust that the right path will become clear, and when it does, you will have the peace to move forward with confidence. The best decisions are not made in a rush. They are made with a steady heart, a clear mind, and a sense of inner peace that confirms you are exactly where you need to be. Life is full of moments when we don't know what to do next. We face decisions that feel overwhelming, situations that don't make sense, and seasons where nothing seems to be going the way we planned. In these times, it's easy to feel uncertain, to wonder if we're on the right path, or even to question if things will ever work out. But one of the most powerful things we can do is trust that God has a plan that is greater than anything we could ever imagine. And so often, we try to figure everything out on our own. We analyze, overthink, and stress about every little detail. We want to control the outcome, to know exactly what's ahead, to make sure everything goes the way we think it should. But the truth is, no matter how much we plan, there are always things outside of our control. There are always unexpected detours, moments of uncertainty, and paths that take longer than we expected. It's in these moments that we have a choice. We can either try to force our way through with our own strength, or we can trust that there is a bigger picture unfolding, one that we may not fully understand yet. Trusting that God has a plan doesn't mean that everything will always go smoothly. It doesn't mean that we won't face setbacks, disappointments, or closed doors. But it does mean that even when things don't make sense, there is still a purpose behind it all. Sometimes what looks like a setback is really a setup for something greater. What seems like a delay is actually positioning us for something better than we could have planned ourselves. Think about the times in your life when things didn't go the way you wanted. Maybe you didn't get the job you applied for. The relationship you thought would last ended. or the opportunity you were counting on didn't come through. In those moments, it felt like a disappointment. But looking back, you can probably see how things worked out in ways you never expected. Maybe that job rejection led you to something even better. Maybe that closed door saved you from heartache down the road. Maybe the thing you thought you wanted wasn't the best thing for you after all. That's why trusting that there is a plan, even when we can't see it, is so important. When we believe that there is a purpose behind every season, we stop stressing over every little detail. We stop trying to force things to happen in our own timing. We stop getting discouraged when things don't go the way we thought they would. Instead, we learn to trust that everything is happening exactly the way it's meant to. There are times in life when we feel stuck, like nothing is moving forward. We pray for answers, but it feels like nothing is happening. We work hard, but we don't see results. We step out in faith, but things don't change right away. In these moments, it's easy to feel discouraged, to wonder if we're doing something wrong, or to question whether things will ever turn around. But just because we don't see things happening doesn't mean they aren't. Sometimes the greatest work is being done behind the scenes. The right doors are being prepared, the right opportunities are being aligned, and the right people are being put in place. Just because we don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not on the way. Trusting that there is a plan also means letting go of the need to understand everything. There are times when we want to know why certain things happened. Why did that opportunity fall through? Why did that friendship end? Why did things take so long? But sometimes we don't get the answers right away, and that's okay, because even when we don't understand, we can trust that everything is still working for our good. The key is to keep moving forward, even when we don't have all the answers. Too often, people get stuck waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect circumstances. They don't take the next step because they want everything to be clear before they move. But trust means stepping out even when we don't see the whole picture. It means taking the next step in faith, believing that as we move forward, the path will become clear. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is waiting for the right opportunity, waiting for an answer, waiting for things to fall into place. It can feel frustrating, like nothing is happening. But waiting is not wasted time. Sometimes the waiting season is the most important season of all. It's the time when we grow, when we learn, when we develop the strength we need for what's ahead. If things came too easily or too quickly, we wouldn't be ready for them. But in the waiting, we are being prepared for something greater. Trusting that there is a plan also means being open to unexpected paths. Sometimes we have our mind set on one direction, but the right path looks completely different. We may think we know what's best, but there is a greater plan at work. The opportunities that come our way may not always look the way we expected, but that doesn't mean they aren't leading us to exactly where we need to be. There will be times when we have to take steps of faith without knowing the outcome. It's not always easy to step into the unknown, to move forward without certainty, to trust that things will work out. But when we look back, we'll see that every step, every detour, every delay was leading us to something greater than we imagined. No matter what you're facing today, know that you are not alone. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to stress about every detail. You don't have to force things to happen in your own strength. Just trust that the plan is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. What's ahead is greater than what's behind. The right doors will open at the right time. And even when things don't make sense in the moment, one day you'll look back and see how everything was working together for your good. Life is filled with decisions, and each choice we make has the power to shape our future. Some decisions are simple, while others carry the weight of uncertainty and fear. But no matter what we face, we don't have to navigate life's crossroads alone. When we pray for guidance, we invite wisdom greater than our own to lead us. When we surround ourselves with wise counsel, we ensure that we are listening to voices that will guide us in the right direction. When we make decisions with peace, not pressure, we free ourselves from fear and step into choices that align with our purpose. And when we trust that God has a plan, we release the burden of trying to control everything and walk forward with confidence, knowing that every step is part of a bigger picture. No decision has to be made in confusion or fear. Clarity comes when we seek the right guidance, listen to the right voices, and move forward in peace. There will always be moments of uncertainty, but when we trust that the path is unfolding exactly as it should, we can walk boldly into our future without hesitation. Even when we don't see the whole picture, we can have faith that each decision is leading us towards something greater. So as you stand at the crossroads of your next big decision, don't rush, don't panic, and don't be overwhelmed. Seek wisdom, trust the process, and move forward with confidence. The best is yet to come. And when you make decisions with faith, wisdom, and peace, you will find yourself exactly where you were always meant to be.